Hello everyone, and welcome to the Paranormal Phenomena Iceberg. I am joined by Chris, as usual, also known as Slyder. So we compiled this iceberg ourselves, but we got many of the entries from Cheetah on icebergcharts.com, so most of the credit goes to him. So I'm sure most of you already know how an iceberg works, but I'll explain anyways. The top layer is the most commonly known and talked about phenomena, and the closer to the bottom we go, the less known the entries will be. The bottom tier being the least known. So without further ado, let's just jump right into tier 1. The Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect is a phenomenon where mass amounts of people remember something one way, but that thing isn't the way they remember, and never has been. So, for example, it can be the spelling of something, or a certain scene in a movie being different, or just straight up seemingly never even existing, and yet people will have detailed, vivid memories of those scenes and those things. Some of these will seriously blow you away if you look into it. Like, you'll see something and your immediate thought is like, that can't be right. And you look it up, and not only is it right, but it's always been that way. It's freaky. Deja vu. Deja vu is the sudden, strong feeling that what you're currently experiencing, you've experienced before. Possible explanations vary from simple misfiring of brain signals to repeating situations we've seen in our dreams already. There's quite a few possible explanations, but I'm sure this has happened to most of you, so I don't think I need to elaborate on this one much more. Glitches in the Matrix. Glitches in the Matrix refers to the small but noticeable glitches in reality that could potentially allude to the theory that life is a simulation. Some of these are absolutely wild, and I don't think they're all fake either, personally, because, I mean, there's an entire subreddit behind documenting these, and it is some pretty wild shit if you just scroll through for a bit. Some of these will blow your mind. Sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is the sensation that you're awake wherever you're sleeping and cannot move. During this period, people tend to see terrifying things such as shadow people, demons, aliens in their room, or wherever they're sleeping. The supposed scientific explanation is just that your brain has been disturbed mid-REM cycle, which stands for rapid eye movement cycle, a stage of falling asleep. So you're essentially half asleep and half awake, but some people speculate that there's more to sleep paralysis than that, and it cannot be so easily explained by science. It's been attributed to entities such as the Hag, and phenomena such as alien abduction and slipping into other planes of reality. Alien abduction. This one is pretty self-explanatory, but this refers to people, well, being abducted by aliens of some kind. There are countless people that claim to have been abducted by aliens, sometimes at a young age, have extremely detailed and vivid memories of the events, and will go majority of their lives traumatized by their experience and can tell you their story in full detail no matter how many years have passed. A lot of people making these claims have been evaluated and have been documented to have legitimate and very real trauma related to what they say is an alien abduction. It's really up to you whether you believe these people's stories or not, but I like to keep an open mind, so at the very least, I leave room in my mind for the possibility that maybe something otherworldly actually happened to these people, but that's just me. UFO phenomenon. Also known as UAPs, this refers to unidentified flying objects that may or may not be from another planet or world. Dozens of UFO sightings are reported each month in the US alone, and we're still in the dark on what exactly these things are. Well, at least the general public is. Crop circles. Okay, this is the last alien-related entry on this tier, I promise. Crop circles are formations and patterns created by flattening crops. They typically appear overnight, and cause of them is entirely unknown to this day. Explanations vary from being simply made by very bored humans that have nothing better to do to actual extraterrestrials creating them for God knows what reason. The bloop. The bloop is an extremely loud sound recorded underwater in 1997. I don't know if this is still the case, but at the time, this was the loudest underwater sound ever recorded, and scientists heavily speculated that the sound was most likely a very big creature, so for a while, that was the explanation. But the more commonplace explanation today is, I think, that it was an ice quake, which is just a glacier falling apart mixed with an earthquake, but that is kind of where my knowledge ends on ice quakes, I'm sorry. And that is the end of tier 1, so straight on to tier 2.
Streetlight phenomena. Streetlight phenomena is alleged psychic phenomena that streetlights flicker and go out when certain people walk by them. Now, streetlight phenomena is just as explained. It is the phenomena of streetlights turning off, flickering, being manipulated when certain people walk by. And there are a bunch of theories for this. A lot of people say it's like an electromagnetic field. It has personally happened to me plenty of times where I have walked under a streetlight and all of a sudden it goes out of nowhere, and it doesn't happen every time. It could be explained as bad streetlights or, faulty electric or something of such, but it is a pretty common phenomena that many of people have experienced. So I think it's kind of inconclusive as to whether it has paranormal origins or it is just a bunch of coincidences. But, they say there's no such thing as a coincidence. So take that as you will. Haunted dolls. Haunted dolls are as they sound, dolls that are haunted. It is a pretty well-known trope in horror and, I guess just horror in general. You have movies like Dead Silence, you have puppets coming to life, you have Robert the Doll, which is a supposed doll that was put a curse on and came to life. You have the Annabelle doll, and it is a pretty famous case. It's a Raggedy Ann doll, and it is sitting in a case in the paranormal exam that Ed and Lorraine Warren founded. But just a ridiculous amount of videos of like dolls moving or just dolls being creepy, and that it kind of falls in line with like the Uncanny Valley. Just because, they do look similar to human beings, and that's kind of the whole point of them. And they're, with that, they're definitely not supposed to move. So, yeah, that is haunted dolls. Missing 411 cases. Missing 411 is a series by David Paulides, basically reporting human disappearances that have little to no explanation as to why they happen. If you look at the chart, it is all essentially around cave systems, so there's a huge paranormal aspect as to why are people disappearing near caves. A lot of them are really weird circumstances, and David Paulides was someone that worked as a detective for a very long time, and when he retired, he decided to essentially put together all the cases, missing persons, and try and connect them and just try and figure it out. And I think we have covered some of those cases individually in videos before, but essentially it's just a lot of missing persons reports, and they all coincide for the most part with massive cave systems. And it's a lot about great national parks and different forests, and essentially people just vanishing into the wilderness in the thin air for the most part. Haunted paintings. Haunted paintings are like pretty self-explanatory, but I do have 3 different examples. One is the Crying Boy painting, which is a painting that was connected to a string of fires, and the original Crying Boy painting was in a house that burnt down, and the only thing that was left standing was the painting. And then it kind of became like a urban legend. I believe it was in Europe where this happened, and it basically got a reputation of a cursed haunted painting due to the fires. The next one is the Anguished Man, which is essentially this red-looking figure, and people have reported just having a strange energy about it. And it was created with the artist's blood and other bodily organ, and fluids and whatnot. And he completed it, and then he took his life. And then the third painting is The Hands Resist Us, which is a painting of a little boy holding a doll in front of a glass door with a bunch of hands kind of in the background. And people have said that when this painting is around, they see stuff coming in and out of it. They see the painting move. It's all around just a very worrisome ordeal for the most part. So, yeah, haunted paintings that are haunted. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. Lavender Town Syndrome. Lavender Town Syndrome was basically, it has to do with Pokemon. So in the original Pokemon, in the Japanese version, Lavender Town had this sound. It had this sound, and it made kids sick. And supposedly the legend goes that some kids even committed suicide because of this. But because of the tone, it made children sick, and they took it out of subsequent games that didn't get ported over to the US. So, yeah, that is Lavender Town Syndrome. Cryptids. Cryptids are creatures of folklore, legends, sometimes supernatural origins, sometimes prehistoric. It's essentially just creatures that haven't been discovered yet, are extremely elusive. There are some cases of, like, there's a fish that was thought to be extinct that was found, it was a bony fish or armored fish. I can't pronounce this, so I'm not even gonna try. There's not too many cases, but like there's woodpeckers that have been thought to be extinct. So once something is thought to be extinct, when it's sighted, it's a cryptid. So like Tasmanian tiger would be considered a cryptid because it's thought of as extinct, and there are sightings and people that still believe it's around. So it is a cryptid. Another popular cryptid would be like Nessie from the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Dogman. If you're familiar with our channel, we cover cryptids and folklore quite frequently. So if you're interested in learning more about individual cryptids, you can just listen to our other content, and you'd probably enjoy it. But yeah, a cryptid, it's a very wide range of creatures. You could call a werewolf a cryptid, I guess. It's pretty wide range of different creatures. Belmez faces. So the Belmez faces are basically faces that were on a concrete floor in Spain, and they appeared in it's a pretty disturbing looking face, but it just appeared out of nowhere, and that's really all there is to that. But it was just a face that randomly appeared on a floor. Ancient pyramids. Ancient pyramids refers to different pyramids all over the world that are in similar locations, like geometrically and on ley lines. So you could say, like, the pyramids of Giza are set in a way astrologically and on ley lines. The pyramids in Mexico are set on ley lines, and there's a bunch of different theories. A lot of them have similar carvings, markings. For example, there is basically bird-like deities in what would be like Mesopotamian stuff, so Middle East area, and then there's also stuff found in South America and Central America with similar deities. And if you look at pyramids, they're basically shaped like motherboards for a computer, and a lot of them are very similar. And there are pyramids found in most continents. So, it's weird that all of these things share such similar markings, similar layouts, just so many similarities. And I think that kind of shows you that people have been traveling a lot longer and greater distances for a lot longer than we kind of like to think. Eyes in the wall. The eye in the wall phenomena was a strange phenomenon experienced by a woman named Venit Kaur in 2003. The phenomena was witnessed in Essex, England. When venturing to her room to retrieve her iPod, Kaur noticed a large pair of eyes protruding from the wall. The eyes had mascara in a way that the ancient Egyptians wore. So essentially, like the Eye of Ra is what these eyes look like that were protruding from the wall. Ghost cities. Manifestations that have been witnessed multiple times in China since 2011. In early October of 2015, residents of Foshan, China, saw a mysterious ghost city hovering over their own city. It happened again a few days later somewhere else. So that there have been like a fair amount of reports. I think most of it has happened in Asia, of floating cities that are just in the air, and people have witnessed it. And I don't know, there's not really any concrete explanation as to what that is. Like, if it's a mass mirage, I'm not really sure. But it has happened multiple times, and I feel like I have seen photographs of such things. But I've only heard cases in Asia, but I wouldn't be surprised if it has happened in other places too, and just what isn't widely enough reported for people to know about it. Sky trumpets. Loud, trumpet-like sounds seemingly coming from the sky. Some people claim this phenomena is the trumpets mentioned in the Bible that precede the apocalypse. There is a fair amount of footage. It has been on TV shows. This one is essentially the trumpets of the apocalypse. There is a connection with trumpets in the apocalypse in multiple cultures. If you're familiar with Norse mythology, Heimdall blows the horn at the start of Ragnarok. So people have heard random horn sounds in the Bible. The horns are when the seals break. So when the seals are broken, the trumpets play. Too certain if there are other cases of trumpets, but I know that it is a worldwide phenomenon and has been heard in many different places.
Call of the Void. The Call of the Void is a brief, sudden, usually out of character urge to do something drastic. So for example, if you're somewhere high up and you suddenly get a thought like, it would be so easy to just jump right now. Or if you're waiting to cross the street and get a sudden urge to just leap into traffic. That's the Call of the Void. This urge is not like strong enough to make you actually do it, I don't think, but the disturbing part is that it's there, and it can happen to anyone. Aging doll. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a doll that seemingly has grown old and gotten wrinkles akin to an actual person. I tried really hard to find an image of the doll before and after its aging that's confirmed to be real, but I couldn't find one like that, only after. So, and the location of this doll is completely unknown. Shadow people. Shadow people are humanoid shapes made of pure shadow. They are typically seen out of people's peripheral vision, but on occasions are seen directly in the center of your vision. The general consensus is that these things are evil or aggressive in nature, and I'm not sure why exactly. Because, like, yeah, it is a wicked looking thing. It's a person made of pure black shadow, but I don't necessarily see a reason to be so sure that they are evil or something in nature. Though there is a small amount of people that think they could be a guardian angel kind of entity. The most widely recurring shadow person that's reported is the Hat Man, which is a shadow person that appears to be wearing a hat, and that's about it. But this entity is pretty much universally agreed upon to be an evil entity, more so than just typical shadow people. I have literally seen these shadow people personally, not the Hat Man, but I've seen shadow people at a few points in my life, and I didn't get a malevolent vibe from them necessarily, but I also kind of did at the same time, and that's because of the sole fact that they are clearly there, but will deliberately leave as soon as you look at them, and that just rubs me the wrong way. The hum. The hum is a low-frequency humming noise that can be heard in some specific parts of the world, but not by everyone that lives in those areas. It's been speculated that it's a form of tinnitus or just machinery of some kind. What kind of machinery, you may ask? I don't know. They don't know either. They just threw out that explanation and ran with it. People that work in the field of sound and whatnot say those are the two most likely explanations. The machinery thing doesn't sound very thought out in my opinion. But yeah, there is no explanation for this to this day. Swirling basement thing. Swirling basement thing refers to a creepy phenomenon that was experienced by several people in the basement of an apartment building in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I hope I'm saying that right. One of the witnesses of this phenomenon, named Charlotte, reported she was retrieving her laundry from this exact basement and was suddenly completely surrounded and engulfed in a cloud made of pure darkness. She screamed and the cloud seemed to stop and retreat to the corner of the room, apparently. I imagine she moved out of there pretty quickly after that experience. I can't even begin to speculate the properties or intentions of this black mass that's engulfing people in this basement, or if it even has intentions. I mean, it's just a cloud from this one story, at least. From Charlotte, and dare I say, it kind of appears to have a mind of its own, considering it ran away and retreated as soon as she screamed, but I don't know. Yeah, super creepy. No thank you. Demolition elves. These are small gnome-like entities that are seen before or after, typically after a mass disaster. So like the events of 9/11 or the Silver Bridge collapse of 1967, for example. They're usually seen by multiple people at a time when they are seen, and they're usually seen examining wreckage or what's going to become wreckage in due time. They're typically described as being small humanoid figures wearing miniature clothing, but sometimes they're described as being robot-like in nature, which is interesting. Sometimes they're also described as being looking like gray aliens. So as you can tell, the description of these things varies greatly for some reason, but they're pretty much always spotted around some kind of disaster that causes a lot of damage to properties and stuff like that. Possible explanations for the demolition elves are that they could be mass hysteria from people in shock, or because these are disasters, or they could be extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings. The one I'm kind of personally ruling out is the extraterrestrial explanation. That doesn't make much sense to me because, like, alien or not, how would they have any idea a catastrophe was about to happen? Like, just because you're alien doesn't mean you can, like, predict the future. I don't know. I don't like that explanation in particular. 4chan alien picture. This is not necessarily paranormal, but I think it fits in this iceberg anyway. In February 22nd, 2017, 4chan went completely offline. And so many people claim to have seen a picture of a gray alien posted by an anonymous user not long before 4chan went down. By the time 4chan was back up, the picture in the thread was nowhere to be found. The theory is that they shut 4chan down to immediately stop the thread from gaining any more traffic, implying that whoever posted that image was not supposed to do so, and we were not supposed to see it. Many people claim to have seen the image, and some claim to have actually downloaded the image, and I've looked at a lot of these pictures that are supposedly the one, and pretty much all of them are deliberately and obviously fake, so I don't think anyone actually downloaded or screenshotted this image, and honestly, why would they? I mean, it's a random picture on a random thread posting a supposedly real alien, and I mean, most people wouldn't think to screenshot or download, but the second 4chan came back up and it was gone, people were like, that is pretty fucking fishy. So before it went down, I don't think anyone suspected anything. Assuming this thread is real, of course. The people that supposedly saw the image say it was disturbing because you could tell it was a 100% legitimate and real image. If someone has it, then it's either been buried in the sea of fakes, or they are just too afraid to put it out there, in my opinion. Bottomless pits. Bottomless pits are, like the name suggests, giant holes that appear to be endless and are sometimes related to paranormal phenomena such as unknown creatures emerging from them and voices being heard from inside them and stuff like that. These are holes that appear to just be there with no obvious cause. People don't normally go into these holes for obvious reasons, I guess. Some of them are actually not big enough for a person to fit in, despite me saying giant holes a minute ago. There's no evidence that these holes are truly legitimately bottomless, but if there was, there really would be no way for us to tell. Apparently, according to science, if there was an actually bottomless pit, I'm talking about a hole that goes from one side of the earth to the other, and something fell into it, it would fall through the earth until it reached a little above the halfway point of the planet and then be propelled in the opposite direction and then just be in an infinite loop because of Earth's gravity. But because the earth rotates, you'd likely be crushed inside of it before you were able to be stuck in a loop. So that's all a scientific theory, but who actually knows what would happen if you actually fell into a pit like that? Can you imagine being stuck in an endless loop in the center of the earth, being propelled back and forth until you inevitably, like, I guess, starve to death or something? That sounds like the worst way to go. Stairs in the woods. This refers to, as the name suggests, mysterious stairs in the woods that seem to have no obvious cause as to how they got there. They've become kind of an urban legend in the past few years. Some people that have come across these stairs say they've climbed them and felt nauseous and suddenly got really paranoid and just a lot of really odd things like that. Some people are too overcome with paranoia to even climb them in the first place, alluding to them having some kind of paranoia aura or something like that. These are found all over the world. It was initially just in the US for some reason, I heard, but then they started being spotted in other areas. The most logical explanation out there is simply that the stairs are the last remaining parts of some old building that is no longer there, because apparently the stairs of a building is the strongest part of a building, which makes sense, I guess. That's what I've heard, but I have no idea how true that last part is. There's also a subreddit for this one, and most of them, just by looking at them, appear to just be an overgrown building where only the stairs are left standing. But once in a blue moon, you'll get one on this subreddit that literally looks like someone just went into creative mode and just spawned in a set of stairs, and like that's it. Those are the ones I find really strange and fascinating. I don't know if those ones in particular are just fake art projects or something, but I feel like that's a lot of work just to snap a pic for Reddit, but who knows, I guess. There was this whole long story on Reddit, supposedly by a search and rescue officer, where they claimed the stairs, like within their unit, they were not to be talked about or gone near at all under any circumstances, and that story gets wild from what I remember. I don't remember everything. It's a bit out there. It's probably been confirmed to just be a creepypasta considering it comes from No Sleep, but which is a Reddit subreddit for those who don't know. But I still think it's worth a read, and I won't spoil it. So just look up Stairs in the Woods, search and rescue, and it's like the first Reddit link. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Bremen Troll Bridge. This is a bridge in Bremen, Indiana that people claim houses a tall, monstrous creature that has a tendency to attack people. The legend is that if you drive to the center of the bridge, park the car, then turn the car off and get out, this troll-like humanoid beast will show itself. Doesn't like visitors, I guess. The beast is apparently 7 to 8 feet tall and is very aggressive and tends to throw things at people's vehicles. From the one account I read that actually supposedly encountered the troll, and I mean one account when I say that. Like, most of the other ones claim to have not seen the creature, but some say they've heard weird noises on the bridge and stuff like that. But most of them hadn't actually encountered the creature. It was only this one that I could find. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. From the one account I read that actually saw the creature, it didn't seem like it wanted to hurt them. It was a group of like 7 people all on the bridge for the sole purpose of seeing this troll, and the troll seemed to just want to scare them away. I don't think it actually wanted to hurt them or was very aggressive at all, actually. See, he just wants you to leave him alone. He's not a bad guy, just stay off his bridge, that's all. He's not bothering anyone. This is a place I would genuinely drive to and try to like summon this troll. You can call me stupid for that, but I call it curiosity. California fetus. This refers to a strange carcass that was discovered by a woman named Gianna Piponis I hope I'm saying that right, in November of 2015 in Los Angeles, California. It was a mysterious pink-toned fetus thing that seemed to have like hoof-like legs and a long neck and a spherical head with 2 thin blue eyes and a deformed mouth. There is no explanation to this day on what this thing is or what happened to it, which is a shame because I'd like to see what a scientific examination would turn up on this weird-ass thing. This thing was classified as an alien sighting because of the massive influx of UFO sightings in the area at the time, but your guess is as good as mine as to what this thing actually is. But yeah, the theories are pretty much just that it's either extraterrestrial or it's a normal human fetus that's extremely deformed, or it's a cryptid of some kind, I suppose. There really isn't much info on this thing, unfortunately.
Green Children of Woolpit. The Green Children of Woolpit were 2 children that appeared out of nowhere in the village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England. They spoke in an unknown language and would eat only raw broad beans. Eventually they learned to eat other food and lost their green color, but the boy was sickly and died soon after his sister was baptized. After learning to speak English, the girl explained that she and her brother came from a land where the sun never shone. So it is theorized that they came from a subterranean area and came from, I've heard people say Agartha, but just somewhere inside of the earth. But yeah, essentially these 2 children came and they were entirely green, and I believe eventually they did lose their coloring, so it could have been due to whatever they were eating as to why they were that color. But it is used as a hollow earth example. Like when people want to say hollow earth is real, they use this as one of the examples, or at least example of subterranean races, or I guess, I don't know if you want to use race or not, or just human beings that are subterranean. And I would assume you would see a very different constitution if you took a group of people that only lived underground for an extended period of generations and generations compared to people that live on the surface. But that is the Children of Woolpit. Coke Mystery Vending Machine. So in Seattle, Washington, there is this vending machine that no one has ever seen. Service it, put anything in, and it just gives out random stuff, and it just gives out like rare stuff that isn't even in circulation anymore, rare pops that people haven't heard of, and it has been there for a long time. Eventually people caught on to it, and people kind of have a whole list of theories and different things kind of surrounding it. The Bleeding House. The Bleeding House is a one-night phenomena that only occurred just before midnight on September 8th, 1987. 77-year-old Minnie Winston steps out of her bath to notice blood oozing from multiple places in the house, such as the floors and the walls. Lab results concluded that it was human blood that was collected from inside the Winston's home. It was from someone with type O blood. When the detective asked, Minnie stated that neither her nor her husband possessed type O blood. Black Mist of Casa Grande Mountain. So this is regarding a strange phenomena that is often encountered on Casa Grande Mountain, located in the town of Casa Grande between Phoenix and Tucson, Arizona. The park's visitors describe the mist as appearing at nighttime on the roads around the base of the mountain. Dark and ethereal, it follows anyone it discovers in the area. Stop and it will engulf you, plaguing you with terribly uneasy feelings. So like Silent Hill kind of a thing. Just mist that follows you and just swallows you up, and has a air of mystique and eeriness to it. Killer cactus. Crypto-botanical creature often reported in the southwestern United States, particularly Arizona. A violent and aggressive cryptid that attacks humans and latches onto their clothing and skin. Many people who have encountered this creature claim that they were standing at least several feet away from any cactus when they were attacked. It has yet to kill anyone, but it seems to be a sentient, aggressive cactus. Ghost Bus of Highway 93, also known as the Ghost Bus of Union Pass and the Grim Weeper, is a supposed phantom bus that haunts the area along US 93 between Wickenburg and Wickiup, Arizona. The bus is rumored to be Bus 777, which vanished sometime in 2002. The story goes that Bus 777 overheated as they neared Union Pass. The bus driver wanted to stop and wait for another bus to take the travel party into Nevada. Passengers vetoed that plan and urged the bus driver to keep going. The bus finally broke down before climbing the summit at Union Pass. The bus driver refused to go any further. Angry passengers stole his shoes and kicked him off his own bus. They pushed Bus 777 up and over and climbed aboard again before it started down the hill. Nobody saw the bus passengers alive again, and the bus never reached its destination. The driver was later found wandering along the highway shoulder without shoes in an incoherent state. Eerie silence phenomena. The eerie silence phenomena is the name given to an acoustic phenomena that manifests as dead silence in areas when such silence would be unusual, such as forests. The phenomena is associated with all kinds of adjacent paranormal phenomena, including UFOs, cryptids, and panic in the woods. When experienced immediately prior to a paranormal experience, it is known as the Oz factor. There are several explanations as to what the phenomena could be: psychic abilities, extraterrestrial activity, magnetic fields. So if you've been out in the woods, I'm sure you've heard, when it's quiet, it means something is big that's around, or something is dangerous that is watching. So that's kind of where that theory comes. Is the forest is usually teeming with life. You have birds, bugs, you hear things chirping. It's really loud. The forest is usually alive. So for a forest to be completely silent kind of means everything is on guard and watching, and that it's connected with skinwalker lore a lot, connected with Sasquatch, like I said, connected with ETs, just paranormal activity in general. So typically when you're outside and you just hear nothing, it's a cause for concern. Usually it is followed by a sense of unease and panic or distress. Blinking crucifix. A strange optical phenomena first observed on March 24, 1989 at the Holy Trinity Church, a community Catholic church in Ambridge, Pennsylvania. During a mass held at the Holy Trinity Church, a crucifix with the depiction of Jesus on it was seen with its eyes closed by everyone present, including the painter of the crucifix, when the eyes are normally open. Fountain cloud. Cloud spotted during the summer of 1975 in Oyster Bay, New York, by a science teacher named Tom Diaroli. He described how the cloud, which moved and changed shape abnormally, pursed its lips and sprayed him with a stream of water. The cloud was described as dark in color and the size of a basketball. It floated back and forth across the peak of his roof, changing in shape from a small globular mass to a larger ovoid. He claimed that it finally measured about 6 feet in height and 1.5 feet wide.
So here we are on the final tier. This is probably going to be the shortest tier. One, because it has the least amount of entries, but two, because the entries in this tier are pretty damn hard to find info on. So yeah, with that being said, on to tier 5, Call of the Deep. Call of the Deep is a phenomenon that's happened to a handful of scuba divers, and it's the sudden, uncontrollable urge to dive as deep and as far into the ocean as you can. Some of the diver fatalities that are caused by this, which really isn't many, by the way, are divers that are experienced and know what they're doing. And what I hear is that they will suddenly dive lower and lower, and that they will stop communicating, which, first of all, I'm not sure how they would communicate underwater in the first place, but I'm sure they have a way. I mean, in this day and age, I'm sure it wouldn't be hard to find a way to do that. I don't know, don't ask me. But they stop communication, and they will literally keep going down until they inevitably die from lack of oxygen, I assume. This is absolutely terrifying. The best explanation I've seen from people come up with is that it's nitrogen narcosis. From my understanding, nitrogen narcosis is just like being in a drunk, confused state that can overcome anyone who's inhaling compressed gas, which I imagine oxygen tanks that divers typically have count for that, but don't quote me on that. I'm not actually sure. But like I said earlier, this is apparently a drunk, confused, disoriented feeling. You can still function and be cognitive and whatnot, so I wouldn't know, but I don't think that's a good enough explanation for this, personally. It's definitely a good explanation, don't get me wrong, but I find it hard to believe that nitrogen narcosis would just make someone swim to their own death. But that's just me. You have to seriously be out of it to do something like that. It just feels too intentional to be that, you know? I don't know. John Lawson's mannequins. This entry creeps me out more than anything else on this iceberg. The John Lawson's mannequin house is an extremely old house that doesn't appear to have anyone living there, and yet there are mannequins on the front porch of the house that will change position and suddenly be seen with wigs or hats on, and sometimes they're holding objects in their hands like books and stuff like that. The mannequins also seem to go inside during bad weather. The weird part is that no one is ever seen going in or out of the house since the mannequins showed up. No one seems to live there, and if someone is living there, then they are pretty goddamn good at not being seen. One theory is that the mannequins are possessed by the spirits that died in a tragic accident in the 19th century. I'm not going to go into every little detail about the accident because it would take a while, but to put it briefly, in the 1870s there was an oil tanker that exploded very close to this house, and 22 people lost their lives that day, and so people think the souls of those tragically killed in that accident are possessing the mannequins. Something super weird is that the mannequins are often seen wearing clothing akin to that time period, so they look like they're from like the 1870s, which is very creepy. And they're also seen with their heads turned toward where the explosion supposedly happened, but as of 2016 the mannequins are no longer there. They literally just disappeared one day. Needless to say, no one saw anyone remove the mannequins either. Urkhammer, Iowa. Urkhammer, Iowa is a small town in Iowa that has seemingly completely disappeared. The town wasn't anything special, I don't think, but there's a few stories in favor of the town actually existing. There's a 1929 newspaper article that spoke of two mysterious things happening in Urkhammer, Iowa. One was of an airplane that flew over the town, and the town looked like it was completely abandoned and overgrown by weeds, despite it at the time not being abandoned. The second story is a bit deeper. A man in the town was running out of gas, so he went to a gas station and filled up his car. He then drove about a mile and then ran out of gas again, so now he was pissed because he figured they ripped him off somehow, so he decided to walk back to the town to get his money back. He walked for 2 hours and did not get any closer to the town. Eventually a biker came by out of sheer luck and gave him some gas. He was so unnerved by this situation that he supposedly had to be checked into a mental hospital at the time. That part kind of sounds like dramatization, but you know, whatever. Then in 1932, a farmer that remembered the town from his childhood was passing by where the town should have been, and it was simply gone. So the 1929 news article that was apparently published has not been tracked and confirmed to be real to my knowledge, so the whole thing could just be a legend, but at the same time, that is an extremely old article, so maybe that would be difficult to find. I don't know. I don't know how that shit works, to be honest, but yeah, very creepy. Invisible crowd. The invisible crowd phenomenon is a thing that's only happened once as far as I can tell. A man on a 4TN Times message board, never heard of that, by a user named Celtic Mick, posted about a loud crowd chanting sound all around his home. He muted his TV to better hear the sound, and he described it as a loud crowd chanting in what seemed like Arabic. That guy said it was far too enveloping, that's the word he used, to be a car's stereo or some kind of speaker. It seemed to have clarity and depth, and he could not find where the sound was coming from. Theories are pretty much a ghostly presence, possibly, which the user didn't say anything about, by the way, or it was simply an auditory hallucination. Here we are, the last entry. Decyan and Die. Hope I'm saying that right, but let me just say that this entry is in the last tier for a damn good reason. It feels like any info about this has been scrubbed off the internet. It's very unnatural. Decyanine dye is a chemical that on its own doesn't do much, I don't think, but when placed just right in between two panes of glass and look through the glass, you can supposedly see into the astral plane. What that means is that you can see auras and like spirit energy of any living thing you look at. So what people have done is that they've made goggles using the dye. You look through the goggles and boom, you can see another world, essentially. Sounds fascinating, right? Well, you can't buy or create decyanine dye or the goggles from it because it is illegal to do so. As for the reason why, your guess is as good as mine. I actually am not sure why. But there are people who claim to be selling them, but you really have to be careful with that considering it is in fact illegal. And who knows if these people are selling the real deal or not. In other words, it is extremely hard to get your hands on these goggles. I would die to confirm with my own eyes if this stuff is real or not. I am a little too fascinated by this, to be honest. If you want to just look into this, there is barely any info online about this stuff. Like I said, it's like it's been deliberately scrubbed from the internet, and that only makes me more curious. It feels like you're not supposed to know about this stuff, like it's fucking forbidden knowledge or something. Super weird, kind of creepy, but very, very fascinating. So that is the end of the Iceberg. This took a lot of work, and it's something completely new on this channel. So if it does well or whatever, maybe we'll do another one. I don't know, really. But thanks again to Cheetah on icebergcharts.com for providing many of the entries on the Iceberg. Like I said, this is brand new, so if there's anything we can improve upon, let us know, because if we do this again, we could use the feedback. If the whole Iceberg sucks, then tell us it sucks. I'll just plug my main channel real quick. I'm Sonic Knight. I cover a lot of gaming news and occasionally horror games, so it's very different content from what's on this channel, but if anyone's interested, the link to my main channel will be in the description. Also, if you like this kind of mysterious paranormal kind of stuff, this channel pretty much sticks to that kind of content. We do cover current events every now and then and news and stuff like that, but for the most part we stick to a lot of that kind of content. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.